Good.
And I'll turn the volume up on the phone here so that we hopefully don't get any feedback.
Chopsticks. Big bowl. How you doing, Scott? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Hello.
How's things going? Well,
Things are going real good. Yeah, I've been up
good.
about 7 this morning, and been kind of a long day, but that's good. Good to see all this talent on your end, all you guys.
Good crew. Thanks to Mike and Laura for helping with the Zoom.
Boy, I tell you, they always do a great job. Are they still on, or?
Yeah, they're somewhere here. Mike, are you there? Laura?
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, you guys.
Oh, yes, we're here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. All right.
Hi.
How you doing? Well, you
Oh,
make
great.
it so very seamless. Seamless. Very nice. Very smooth. Makes it easy for everybody.
Thank you.
You meltdown out there?
I'm hoping, yeah.
Yeah, we got somebody emptying the trash out there. And
So you guys know this is generally the most tranquil place. I'm
Yeah.
the furthest from everything, desert everywhere around me, and then today for an hour.
all right, good. You know, I've got 3 of you that can assist me on what we're going to do and so forth. You know, a lot of tremendous information has been given out all day long, and I want to say a shout out to my daughter and her fiance. We're doing such a great job. I think that was my daughter's first Kimpo Zoom class, and I'm very proud of her, and just wonderful. She moves well, doesn't she?
Yes, you're very well. Very well. Yep.
She has a tremendous amount of form, and because of her form, it allows her to have that innate explosion within her that is it's very quiet, but you can see it. It's much like a tiger. You know, when they walk slowly, you can still see their strength, and that's my daughter's always had that. But it's just very proud of what they did today, and also all of you. I was listening to most of this all day long, and what has changed over the last year, a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years, so forth, is that everybody's ability to articulate this art has increased. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. It has. From a year ago, I'm watching all of you teach, and I go, my son, my God, these guys know what the hell they're talking about. You guys are very good. Okay. I was talking about this years ago. People would ask me, say, what's the most important part after you get to 3rd degree black? It's become a 3rd degree black teacher. Okay. How you can convey this knowledge. Okay. That's your new mastership. Because anything after black belt, I mean, how dead is dead? Okay. What you want to focus on is your ability to not just memorize the terminology, which there's a lot of it, but to know when to use it, when to drop in a jewel. A word is a jewel. Emotion is a jewel. Okay. Timing of your lesson to somebody is a kid. Hold on 1 second. Maybe you'll sign up for that.
Maybe the most thorough leaf blower I've ever met.
And you know, this is people have asked me throughout the years, where is the art headed? And they keep asking me that question year after year. And I said, once all of the teachers have this innate ability now within them to articulate it, that is going to be the thing that's going to make Kimple expand even more. Okay? Because there's a big difference, you guys, in showing somebody how you do it as to why you do it. Okay? You know, you want to get somebody to join your school, you do what? You show off, right? Okay? Then you show them how you did it. Then if you want them to stay, you tell them why you did it that way. Okay? So what has happened now is that you guys know what the hell you're talking about. It's very impressive. It's very impressive. The days of, well, I like to do an outward block, but I like to do an eye slice, and then I like this, and I like that, and I like that. Okay, and then it becomes articulation of what you like in a kitchen to cook. You say you have 10 cooks in one kitchen. So, well, I like this much mayonnaise, and I like this much pepper, and you know, it's on and on and on. But it doesn't really hit home universally until you can articulate the science of the art. Okay? Now, the science just doesn't mean your ability to understand the physics, the underlying physics of the art, but also the science of psychology, sociology. Okay? That's as teachers now, you guys are, you know, wearing high ranks, and as teachers, you know, you're doing more than just showing somebody how to hit somebody, right? I mean, at this point, anytime you open your mouth to say something on the mats, it's going to affect the person you're teaching, the person in the back row, the people that are watching you from the outside, and so forth. So you affect people. And that then is where the art has finally gotten to after all these years. Okay, not just how many people can do 5 swords faster than the other or stronger than the other. Okay, I mean it's fun to use each other as a challenge, which we all do. You see somebody do something and it challenges you to, wow, I wonder if I could do it like that. Okay, that's a good side of human nature. And that's one that we want to propagate as we're teaching. But what you guys have done, and I'm being redundant, is that you've gone past that. Gone past it. People like Master Frank Soto, when he speaks and he explains something on his podcast, you know, it goes beyond just the physical, and people learn something by it. Okay. When I first started taking lessons, we used to talk about people someday will understand the science of Kimple. But in the days of when I first started in the 60s, the science of it really wasn't taught. It was how to. Everything was basically by rote. Show me and I'll do it. Okay. But you guys have done a great job. I just want to tell you that. Okay. Everybody that I know that are still teaching it. And if you can't teach it that way, if you can't teach it from the understanding of human nature and the sciences that govern human nature, then you will be left by the wayside. Okay? Today, people are seeking out martial arts schools that bring to the surface the underlying reason that the person is in them. Okay? So anyway, that's what we watched today, and I think that's very important. Okay? This is your day, so any questions you want to ask me, I'm wide open, anything. And can we put the question so everybody can hear it? Is that possible?
Chris?
Yeah, this should be, if you turn your mic on.
If you turn your mic on, you can ask how old I am.
No. It'll come out here when anybody asks.
Don't be shy, you guys.
Feedback.
Yeah, you guys can take your mics off.
There you go.
If not, Laura and Mike can do it for you.
Yeah, there you go. So we can talk, you know.
Yeah.
For God's sakes, you got to be able to talk. Okay,
And if you can't talk and you text a question, we can read it.
what's the question? Coming through?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Are you guys still muted?
Michael Russ is, Frank is, Tony is, Manuel.
Master Tatum.
Yes,
If nobody else is asking you a question, I'd like to ask you a question.
you go right ahead.
I'm going to ask you the same question I've been asking. I really like playing with the knife techniques
Okay.
and kind of trying to evolve it per se. Have you done a lot of that with the knife techniques from the original version?
Well, yeah, and you got to understand something about the original. You mean the formation?
No. The techniques, the lance techniques,
The what?
Lance.
the lance.
Oh, the lance techniques. Okay, so what is it that you're asking about?
So have you modified them at all? I like to play with them and do different things with them. Have you done any changes to them?
You know, I will. Do you have a knife? A nippy?
Get the shock knives.
How about one of the rubber ones with that black? No, yeah, that'll work. Okay. Now, how many people? Everybody knows what's this called? What's that technique called? The lance technique. Piercing lance? No, that's piercing. What's this one called?
Entwine.
Entwined lance. Okay. If I'm stabbing Scott and he parries, okay, and he starts to move towards me, what's going to stop me from pulling back and cutting it?
Nothing.
Nothing. Right. Okay. Now, you gotta be specific. Is the knife sharp here but dull here, or is it like a Parker knife where it's sharp on both sides? Okay. So when you ask a question like that, you've got to be very specific. Okay. He comes in, and I feel the pressure as I push. The knife wants to go in what direction? This is an angle of what, you guys? Angle of deflection. Is it an angle to stop the blade? Which is it?
Deflect it.
It's a deflection, okay? So from the momentum that I bring to Scott, he has enough time without checking this. Now, some guys will say, well, I know what you're going to do. So, see, I've already pulled back. So your technique doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you gave me 5 minutes to think about it. So I've already got an answer to screw your technique up. Okay. Is that logical? Not really. Okay. Now, when you teach a technique to somebody, are you thinking, go ahead, that they're just going to stop now? Okay. And without that, and that's as far as I'm going to go. Okay. If I'm a trained fighter and I do this, yes, I'll reverse my action and I'll check in the process. Okay. But at the level that this technique is taught, it's taught that you are moving step across in. All right. He's moved how many feet? Do it again. Few feet, right? Okay. If I move against that, okay, now the blade's out here. Okay. If I practice it and I teach it to my student like this, no, I would not take the time to step in and do this. Because by the time I feel it, I would pull back and probably return fire. Okay. So when you practice it, if you're going to practice with somebody, that's a nice, and he cuts, right? Okay. Those are two strikes right there. Okay. So this technique is not designed against a trained what?
Trained fighter and knife fighter.
Okay, was that fast enough? Okay,
Still processing.
so people say, well, do you really work with the knives? Yeah, I work with the knives, okay, but I also work through logic. If a guy jumps out of his car and moves in,
Okay.
and moves in the stab, okay, there's enough angle of deflection and time for him to apply that type of move. Okay, it's like you can't do thrusting salute or a kick. I'm gonna kick you. When I kick like that, right? It won't work because the kick's not what?
Committed thrusting.
Not committed, passive what?
Point of no return.
The line of point of no return. If he sees my body do this, he knows that I'm passing a point of no return. He has time to do that technique. Okay? So you've got to be specific in how you teach a move, a concept involved in a technique. Okay, what are the characteristics of a knife? Okay? All that has to be taken in consideration. If you do an upward block, just go to horse. Do an upward block, and I push against it. It's the same action. If he does the parry to entwine lance, it's here. It's just an upward block. What? No, stay there, stay there. Upward block where?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's the same upward block that's up here. Got it?
Yes.
And so you got to be very specific. All right. If a guy comes out, he's holding a blade like this, okay, then your whole thought pattern has to change. Okay. More likely you're dealing with somebody that knows what they're doing and so forth. And the best course of action would be what?
Run.
Okay, and if it bothers your ego that much, find his address and find out when he doesn't have a knife. Okay? All right. So, getting back to teaching, yeah, I mess around with techniques. It's like how many people stab this way, right? Now, everybody comes up and says, well, nobody stabs that way, Mr. Tatum. And I look on the news and I watch how many people get pissed off and do stab that way. Okay? Untrained people will stab this way because they feel anger, and most strikes that human beings use from the time they're born is a hammering motion. Did you know that? And that most of our techniques have a hammering motion. Whether it's a chop, it's still a what? It's a hammering motion. When people get angry and they attack, they generally flail about with hammering action. Okay? All right. So yes, people do that. But what it does, these knife techniques do teach, Scott, is if he does, what's it called? Raining lance. It teaches you to set up an angle of what? What, you guys? What's going on here?
Deflection.
Angle of deflection, and then you borrow that horse. So now you've learned something in that technique. Okay? Now you're doing an upward block down here. You got it?
Yes.
Okay? You see what I'm saying? So you're learning something. Now, when he hits me with the elbow, he has a check down here. You guys see it? What's the next move? A check. And then what's next after that? Another check? How many checks were there down there? 3. The main purpose after the deflection of the blade is to teach the student, believe it or not, this is what Ed Parker taught us when we were young, is I want you to learn about writing checks. I want you to understand how writing checks work. So what I'm going to do is place a dangerous weapon so that you have to what?
Keep your check. Yeah.
Learn about a writing check. After this, all of this is what? Icing on the cake. It's dirty work, okay? The main thing, after you deflect it and you manage to put it down into his leg, is to teach that student how to ride. And notice that I'm using my knee when I'm doing this too. I'm riding here to keep him in check. Okay, that's the secondary lesson in that particular technique. Is there any other place where we do this? And continue to ride. Yeah, they're all over the place. Okay, now the student goes home and he learns now that if he doesn't want that blade to come back in and hit him, he better know how to do this. Okay? If he's going to stay this close, this connected, and this squared to his opponent. Okay? We're squared to each other. So, yeah, these are concepts and principles that are put in what we call techniques, but actually it's just a case study of motion. Technique, the word technique is wrong word. Okay? A technique is this. Grab your wrist. That's a technique. Okay? What you're learning through these Lance techniques is a case study of motion, how it relates to the first move, to the next move, and on and on. Okay? The guy asked me now, asked me about mass attacks. And I said, what's the first thing, one of the first things that you got to do about a mass attack? Does anybody have an answer? Anybody? It's a good question, and I'm asking it. What's one of the first things to consider in a mass attack?
Environment.
We know that. What else?
How many people?
We know that. I know you guys know this stuff. Okay, do you block or do you not block?
Attack.
You attack. Are you being defensive? No, you're aggressive offense. If you're in an aggressive offense, well, especially fighting more than one guy, if I got a guy coming from here, Scott's coming from there, okay, I'm not gonna consider blocking, but now I am turning and going after my attackers. I'm going after them. Okay? It's a whole different concept. Like a guy said, well, Mr. Tatum, I don't know if I could do flashing wings on somebody and really hit him with those elbows. And I said, well, what do you have to do to hit him with those elbows? You have to want to. You understand that? If you just practice a move, and you say, okay, I've learned this, now I know it. But you have got to say to yourself, man, even regardless of his face, I want to break those ribs because I want to. Okay? People don't talk about that. You have to concern yourself with what basics would you use? What tactics would you use? Mass attack, and he punches and he moves out. I'm not interested in blocking anymore. I'm interested in blasting away at the targets that come my way. Okay, it's not a defensive measure. Okay, it's offensive. Once you begin and you do something like this and you've got a blade, then boom, right? There's two guys right there. Both have been cut. You going after them. It's not the reverse. Okay? But you've got in a situation that's at critical, it's because you want to. People don't talk about wanting to. When I was overseas, one of my sergeants had a gun and there was an enemy and he put his gun down. He said, I want to kill him with my knife, because he wanted to be able to go home and say he killed somebody with his knife. Okay, now it may seem cruel and it may seem eccentric, but that's what he wanted. Okay, I'm trying to get you into an understanding of reality. Okay, and he did. Okay, so there's a real harshness to when you have to ask yourself, do I want to break his ribs more than I want to chop his neck? Do I want to bust out his knee more than I want to break his nose? Okay. Now I'll tell you a story. I asked Ed Parker, I said, do you like elbows? He said, I liked it so much I couldn't wait to use it in a bar fight when he was in the Philippines. And he did. And he shattered every rib on the right side of the attacker. He said, I just wanted to. And I never forgot that. Okay. Okay, I hope this doesn't sound too basically out of the ordinary.
Dark.
Too dark. I'm not trying to make it that way, but I'm trying to get you to understand these are case studies of motion. Okay? And it is important to understand that an upward block is, this is just an upward block in a different position. Okay? It's an angle of deflection. That's what it is. Got it? Okay. Now, where are we? Questions? Anything?
Sir,
Yes.
I have a question. And what you're saying, is perfectly right. But the difference, some people think that it's too aggressive. But when you're in the street, is everything. Everything that you're talking about is everything in the street.
Yes. Yes.
Is what we want
Yes.
to do.
It's what you want to do to survive. It's what you want to do to get home to your family. Okay?
Yes.
It's not a defensive posture. Okay? You teach people that come into the studio first to step back, because it's you're giving the person almost a reasonable doubt. Okay? You're giving him an out. And the first rule when you're teaching a beginner, understand this. The first rule of self-defense when you're teaching a beginner is to step back, period. Because you got to teach them to, people are afraid to step back because they're so shocked when they're grabbed, they're like a deer. So you get the kid to step back, say, hey man, okay, now at least my hands are where? I'm talking, it's an ambiguous position. Hey man, I really don't want to fight you. But he raises that other hand, and then you're there, and you got all of this to do, okay? But when you're in a mass attack and at your guy's level, stepping back it's no longer defense.
Not an option.
It's not an option. It's pure offense. Period.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. What else?
Someone asked about the quarter beat timing.
Well, when I was doing the knife on these guys about quarter beat timing,
So someone just mentioned quarter beat timing. They had quite a day. We're hoping you could spend some time talking about that.
well, if you have a guy coming up like this, and you went up and you hit him, and then you drop down, okay? All right, that's an eye rake and this, but how many beats is that? Is that 16th timing or is it quarter beat? You get 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you know it's hard to measure. It's hard to measure. Okay, now when you have collapsible deflection, meaning that he comes in around my waist and I hit him here, okay, when this hits and brings him down, it slips. Okay, it's a collapsible deflection to something else. Okay, and you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, right? Quarter beat. Okay, if you take leaping crane, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Or you can go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the same moves were there. Okay, I changed the dynamic of that technique by changing the timing and the rhythm. Got it? That help?
Master Tatum,
Yes.
I was so that was my question on the quarter beat timing. So as you as you're speeding through the strikes, but to be able to transition with your timing, how does your transitions have to change, right? So in other words, instead of it being 1, 2, 3, it's 1, 2, 3, right? It ends up being it's more certain in fashion, right? It ends up it looks different with the timing change than it does initially as like when you first learn it by the numbers, right?
Yes.
Because it's not this defined 1, 2, 3. It flows. That's interesting to me.
Yes, it has continuity. Your techniques develop continuity. It's like if a gymnast is doing a back handspring, backflip, backflip. So there's continuity, right? And your technique should have that continuity. Okay. Now, when you have quarter beat timing, you pick up not more speed per se, but you pick up shorter distances. Okay.
Point of origin, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, if I ran across a vacant lot from diagonal to diagonal, as opposed to running around it, I'm still running at the same speed, but the diagonal got me what? Got me there sooner. The speed doesn't always become more apparent, but it's the angles that you choose, okay? The distance within your strikes shortens. It's like I told guys before, I said, when you do your techniques, make sure that you hands don't outspeed your footwork, okay? Because hand speed without backup mass is not a good idea, okay? So you can have backup mass and hand speed, okay? They unite together. Now that means that I have to shorten something out if I'm going to use a forward bow, okay? And this is my forward bow, right? Right from here. But if I want to just a little bit of torque here, that's more than enough to do the job of this, okay? Because past the point of contact here is a what? A push, okay? So if you want backup mass behind your very fast hands, then the adjustments from your body is this, as opposed to this, and this. Okay? They're minor adjustments. You get the same impact. You get the vibrational transfer from the lower half of the body into what you're doing, okay? But you teach the beginner to what? Full range of motion. You guys don't need full range of motion. Okay? But the beginner does. Okay? All you need is just that. Okay? That's all you need. But you have to have a baseline of study, right? A guy told me, he says, well, Mr. Tatum, I never teach neutral bows. I only do this. I teach my neutral bows. Well, I'm on the back ball of my foot. Can you bring your camera down a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I said, great. I said, so that's what you like? He said, yeah, that's how I teach my students. I said, well, where did you learn that? He said, well, it makes me faster this way. I said, well, yeah, but where did you learn it? He said, from a neutral bow. I said, aha. Okay. You learned it from a baseline of study. You adapted a change to fit yourself. Now, if you eliminate the neutral bow, the students then are going to be all like you, but they'll never experience what the neutral is used for more than just standing there. Okay? All right. So again, it goes back to be specific in what you tell somebody too. I don't use this move. Why not? I don't like it. Good. Nobody asked you to like it. You can't like every move in the system. Okay? Does that make sense? No one's going to say you got to do this way, okay? Because the system was not built that way. If you don't like it, still learn it so that you can decide whether you like it or don't. Okay? Pretty simple. Okay? There's enough on the plate that you don't have to eat all the peas. You can eat the other things. Okay?
One question.
Huh?
One comment. I have one comment about what you're saying. Is a lot of people that I know, a lot of masters, teachers, and so forth, they told me when I meet them that they don't like certain moves, but they don't know the basic of it. They don't know them. And then I say, if you don't know them, how you're not gonna like them?
You don't know if you're going to like it.
I heard this excuse all the time. I don't do it because I don't like it. Do you know it? No, I never learned it. So
Well, then how can you make a decision?
exactly.
How do you know, you guys, how do you know where up is?
Yeah.
Give me an answer.
Because you know we're down
Yeah.
there.
How do you know where left is?
Because you know
Because
we're
I know
right.
it right.
Okay. What allows you to make that decision?
The knowing of both sides and up and down and everything.
Well, what vehicle allows you to make those simple decisions?
Knowledge, contrast.
Common sense.
Contrast, yes, but there's a vehicle that allows you to make those decisions. And that vehicle is that you are alive in a three-dimensional body. So you have three-dimensional awareness to be able to make three-dimensional what? Decisions.
Decisions.
Okay, can you make that without a body? Okay, I know that sounds elementary, but think how profound that is. You can't make any decisions based on contrast unless you're here,
Exactly.
okay? And Kimbo is designed on the fact that you are here, okay?
Exactly.
It's profound, but it's simple.
So John Miller has Hillier has a question. I'm wondering your thoughts on how you would like to see the next evolution of LTKKA and Kempo in general. There are so many variations of Kempo, which can feel it sways potential students away from Kempo. I really like the LTKKA and wondering your thoughts on keeping it alive and prevalent among the various styles for generations to come.
Well, you know, the LTKKA is a symbol of how my wife and myself and my fellow associates like yourself interact with the art. Okay? The LTKKA doesn't demand that you wear this patch. It doesn't demand that you wear a gi. Okay? It doesn't demand that you send your newborn over. Okay? All right? It doesn't demand homage and all that other shit that goes along with other organizations. Okay? All right. As long as the LTKKA stands in that light, then I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. Okay? When I go, then who knows what's going to come? I don't. Okay? I've seen organizations in Kempo where they took the master teacher out to dinner, and one of the students started to eat as the food came to his plate. And so the master told him to get down and do 20 push-ups because you don't eat before me. Kiss my ass, okay? All right, you don't do stuff like that, okay? This isn't the feudal times of 1620 in Japan, okay? If you said, oh, by the way, Steve, let's let the master eat first because we're being polite, okay? Fine, okay, I like etiquette, okay, but I don't like homage, okay? Okay, so that's how the LTKKA stands. Okay, simple as that. No carrots, not dragging carrots. When I teach, I teach. It's how to do it. Guys used to say, Mr. Tatum, you're teaching all the secrets. Well, in the first place, there are no secrets. There's just guarded truths. Okay? So enough of that bullshit. All right, what else?
Thank you for your insight on my question. I'm going to remember this always. On a related note, hope you are with us for many years to come.
I do too. I do too. You know, Francisco Soto and I, gosh, we've been friends for how many years, Frank?
30.
Yeah, and we know each other very well, and we also know what bullshit is. Okay?
Yes, sir.
We do. Gomez in New Mexico, he knows what bullshit is. Okay? And one thing that we all have in common is that we're honest with each other about what we are and what we teach. Okay? And going back to your question, that's what this whole thing is all about. When I was 15 years old, I went down and took my first lesson at Parker's. I had no idea that we would all end up here together. Okay? So one of the things that I remember, and I heard one of my teachers tell me, he said, whatever you do, Larry, he said, don't change your personality to fit the Bushido of martial arts. Okay? I never forgot. Are we still on?
It's echoing, yeah.
Got it.
Wait a second. You're
The TV went off.
hold on, you guys.
All right, see. Okay.
We'll be right back. Hold, please.
Have a 2-minute intermission.
I don't know.
they still there?
There, we're coming back.
All right. There we are.
You're back. There you go.
We're back.
Okay, now. When you teach something like, for instance, the staff, and Laura and taught it so well. I really enjoy watching your teach. Is she still on?
Please-
She's still on.
Laura, are you still there?
Lori?
So Laura had to leave, but I'm here.
Mike,
All right.
Mike's there. Mike's there.
But I can pass on any messages.
All right. When you study a technique, we got a staff here. A couple of them. There we go. Now, I'm going to use the staff as a tool or metaphor for what we were talking about when we were saying that it's a case study of motion, right? Okay. You wanna?
I'm gonna get you hooked up. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all right.
We can just share the table over real quick.
Perfect.
Okay, how are we doing?
We're gonna be fine.
Okay, good. Are we back on?
We're back.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. This will illustrate a case study of motion on multi-levels. Okay, you wanna, are you gonna hold that?
I will.
Can he hold that? Could you dumb me up for Scott?
Oh, sure.
There you go. Come on. All right. You want to do that? Okay. Now Scott is facing this direction, facing. Come on. Unbeknownst to him, he has somebody that grabbed onto his staff, his big stick. Can you guys see it?
Yeah.
Okay, if you go a little closer. Now, in the form, we're going to break a Kempo rule. We're going to cover with the rear leg and torque it and push down and stab. Okay, it works. It's a good move. Watch again. Somebody grabs onto it. The leverage is so great with that staff that he can't hold on and his hands cross. Now go back. Now, if you watch, you guys, in a case study of motion of this, his hands begin to cross. Right up here, if he pushes this up a little bit, he can break his elbow. Okay, you feel that? Okay. So there's a tremendous amount of leverage. Now he pushes down and then he stabs through. Whack. If he's hasn't let go, he can kick him, pull it out. Yeah. So that's a simple technique. Got it? Now, he's still facing that way, but this time he grabs one hand here and one hand here. Okay, now we're evolving up the staff, right? The staff is a constant. Go for it. Okay, hold on to it, right? Okay, do it again. Do it again. Torque it. Come up to his shoulder and push and drive it down. Yes, okay. Now, let's advance this again. Now grab both hands up. All the way down. Okay, now let's move up a little further. I'll do it. Let's go up here. We're fighting for the staff. Go. Ow. Or how about just what he used to do behind him? Okay, go ahead. Cover, do what's what. And bring it around again. Yes, exactly. Now, what didn't change? The motion of the staff didn't change, did it? What changed was the attacker. His position relative to this motion. Okay? So if I grab him from the front, then he crosses my arms and stabs, okay? If I go up a little bit, same move. Yeah, exactly, okay? I go up a little bit more. Yeah, that'll break my forearm. I go up a little more. And that'll break my forearm and my shoulder. And on and on. What stayed constant? This. Okay? That stayed constant. Now that's your art, you guys. Your art stays constant, but your attacker intercepts your constants on all levels, all planes of motion. Got it? This just illustrates a constant. That's all it is. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, you guys know the staff set? Yes? Why do we pick it up from the ground with our feet?
Because it's a man-made weapon that comes from the earth.
Comes from the earth. All right. If it's on the ground, I don't want to what? Lean over and pick it up. Okay. Now the odds of you snapping it from the ground when you're wearing your Adidas tennis shoes, okay, is very
Pretty hard.
slight. But in the lesson, you're teaching the student that natural weapons and unnatural weapons, inanimate objects, okay, come from up to you, right? Come from the ground. When you're done with this form, where do you put the staff?
Back to the ground.
You throw it back to the ground, okay? So what you're teaching the student is an interrelationship between nature and man's weapons, okay? You're teaching an interrelationship, okay? It's not just philosophical, it is an actual fact, okay? Now, you want to grab your staff? Can you see what we're doing? I'm gonna have that shit. Beautiful. Here we go. All right. Okay, put it up there. Go. Now that works, right? Can you guys see it? Okay. Now, this is. Don't divorce your, once you have an inanimate object or a unnatural weapon, don't divorce your natural weapons from it. Okay, here comes the first move. Are you in the right position? Yeah, okay, do it again. Go. Yes. Now that move is in the form. Now what does that teach the student? Not to rely entirely upon an inanimate object, but let it integrate with what you already have. Okay? Now, if you watch him do this, and I go to hit him, if he stops that hard enough, it brings my face right down where? It checks my height, and if he stops one more time, I'm in. Okay? So what I'm trying to get you to understand is your interaction between natural weapons, what you have, and unnatural weapons. They interact together. Okay? That's very important. And a case study of motion is that you bring nature into your lessons, not just because it sounds pretty, but it does teach a lesson. That makes sense? Okay. All right. Now, I'm trying to cover enough material here, so go ahead, ask more questions, anything you like.
I got a question, sir.
Yes,
Okay, so you're talking about case studies of motion, right? What about usually self-defense techniques are the case studies of motion. What about the freestyle techniques? Can we say they're case studies of motion as well?
yeah, absolutely. Can I borrow your slips?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely, sure you can. You know, we learn, can you see him or do you?
Yes, sir.
You guys step back just a bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
That's. B1A is a common technique, right?
Right.
Its main purpose is to teach to control his height, width, and depth, his depth zones, right?
Right.
Expose a target, expose targets, but control his depth zones. All right. Once we did B1A or whatever, okay, then we learned we could do them together, right? So you can sweep as we do this, right? So that we know that all of this can be put together, okay? And we're doing the same thing. It would be the same thing if you're doing 5 swords. If he checked my arm, okay, then I have what? I have another alternative and so forth. And it's no difference here that if he checks my hand, okay, right? I still have room for jello.
Baby maker.
Okay? They're
Okay.
case studies of motion. They're not case studies of guarantee.
Right.
Studies of motion. If I landed a twist stance, if I sweep his leg, and I land in a twist stance, and he jumps off to the side, then I'm in a position to use that twist stance. That's why it's called a universal stance. If I do the same thing, and I hit, and he jumps to this side, no more, then a roundhouse kick is already what? Aligned to his orbital adjustments from him. That's why it's called a universal stance. When you face each other, there's a line between us, demarcation line. This is the universal pattern. He occupies his half of it. I occupy my half. Got it? All right. This stance will not occupy all 8 angles at the same time. One stance will.
Yikes.
And that's, okay, back up. A twist stance actually occupies all 8 angles. It's the only stance that does that. It's the only stance that does that. So I can fight here, I can fight here, I can move on this line, straight line behind me, diagonals, and so forth. I do the same thing with my legs. But that's why it was called a universal stance. But it's, you put yourself on a universal pattern, cross over to his side, and there's 2, there's 12, 6. Everything can be engaged from that stance. That's why it's so important in your sparring techniques that after you make a move, if he jumps over there, it's all lined up. If he jumps over here, it's lined up. See what I'm saying? Everything's lined up. Not a guarantee, but sure does help to understand why it's there. Okay? Why it's there. Because if I did this, and I just used neutrals, okay, not everything is lined up. It is to some degree, but I have to what? If he moves over here,
Adjust.
I've got to either drag up to hit him with that leg, if that's what I want to do, drag up to punch him because of the distance, or shuffle. But if I'm in a twist stance, I've already covered those lines. Okay? Now, here's something interesting. If you do snapping twist, can you guys see it? Some students have a little trouble making this reach. Okay? There's people, shorter people and so forth. Okay? People of less, of slight built people. If I do this and I break, right? And I do a front crossover, okay? Then I'm allowing that twist stance to give me more mass behind what I'm doing. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so for a slight built person, I'd say, okay, this is what you do. This is what I think would work better for you through a case study of motion. And once I've crossed into his territory with a twist stance, then everything is in line. That twist stance is a multiplication sign, which multiplies your dimensional usage. Got it? Okay, all right. There's a technique in finger set 2. When you jump down and your hands do this, and then you pull up. Okay? Why would you claw the eyes this way when you could claw them this way? Why claw them from an X?
Because you gain leverage with the cross and you can multiply or twist the neck and pull
Watch
the
this.
head.
Lie down. All right. I grab this way. As I rip, I can immediately grab the arms. Okay? If I ripped, put your hand back up. This, like a, if I rip this way, then I have to what?
Regrab.
Re-grab, go down. If I do this, okay, then I cross over with that beautiful twist stance. And I cross over here, everything breaks. The wrist, the elbow, the shoulder, the neck, and his spine. All of that breaks. Okay? Because of the universal stance. Since I had this idea in mind, I made my mind up early not to do this because I'd have to go through the process. If I do this, he comes up and my hands take it. Now, watch where all of this goes. And everything breaks. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to clean my mask.
So that illustrates the multiplication sign, which is the universal stance. Okay? One stance can break the spine, the wrist, the elbow, and the shoulder. Not to mention that when you do that, what does this hand do?
Punch it.
It punches, doesn't it? Okay? If that's true, then why in this technique in what? What is it, short 3?
Short 3, yeah.
Why are we crossing our hands here? because it allows us to brake on the way up instead of going, there's no brakes. You understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
But if I do this, and then I go to an X, then there's other things that are in there that are braking because of the X, just like we did on the ground. Okay? Just like we did on the ground. Make sense? Okay. Phew.
In the sea, across the wind. I know.
That hurts, doesn't it?
What are you talking about?
Look, the stuff I just showed you on the ground, that's very old stuff. That's very old school stuff. And it was designed to not kill the guy, but it was designed to make it so he couldn't come back and fight again. Okay? All right, so there's a level of this art that Mr. Parker kept pretty much under wraps. Okay. What he didn't leave under wraps was the map. So I showed you part of the map with this. Okay, I showed you part of the, that's part of the map. Everybody goes, well, why not just do it this way? It's faster. Okay, but now you've limited your dimensions. Okay. And this then down here is the same as what? Short 3 up here. Oh, yeah. You see it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Whew. All right, now, am I boring the shit out of you?
No,
No.
this is good.
All right. So when people ask you, is there grappling in Kimple? Ask him. Ask
Sure.
Scott. You know there's grappling in Kimple. Okay, now can you do that? You can, but you have to what?
Be safe.
Want to. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? You want to. Okay? That degree of physicality on somebody is very important in today's world. Okay?
You had talked about, I'm kind of blessed I got the opportunity to go and visit you a couple, 2-3 times a month, but during the last couple sessions, you talked about the code of ethics that Kimpo has.
Yeah.
I think I was in the maiming stage of that, but I'm not sure.
That is
Review them on some of that because that
well.
it kind
Okay.
of came up earlier because you guys were talking about.
All right. Here's the code of ethics. Step back before you what? Before you block. Block before you what?
Right.
Hurt. And hurt before you what?
Name.
Or kill. So there is a built-in ethics to what you're teaching. Okay, there is a built-in ethics. Now doing with Scott down there, he didn't know that I was going to sweep his arm so quickly and they just happened to come up. But I chose the X to illustrate that. And all of this in one move will have that decisive effect on your attacker. Okay. So when you see finger set 2, okay, and you're doing all this, you've got to ask yourself, you know, what's going on in here? What's actually taking place? Okay. It's twofold. For the beginner or the intermediate, it becomes form building and strength building in the legs and so forth, right? But for people on your level, there's more to it. What do you do with the staff? The staff was a constant. You interact with it from different angles to get different answers. It's the same with finger set 2. All right, what else you got? I didn't know I could still move.
It's 5:08, so it's up to you how long you want to go, Master.
Well, let's see. You guys, you've got to have some questions. I know it's a lot to think about. Okay? What I went over, I mean, you've got to understand it's like I showed on one video, that delayed sword upside down is what? What is delayed sword upside down?
Intellectual departure.
Intellectual departure. Okay? Just upside down. So you have to, in these case studies of motion, you've got to see what's upside down, what's to the right of your action, what's to the left of it, what goes on up here, and what goes on down there is a mirror image in most cases. In most cases. Okay? All right. How long have we gone?
Hour
Hour and 10?
and 10 minutes you've been.
Okay. How long am I supposed to go?
As long as you want to. Sorry, I just got one question. You talked about the techniques and about, they can be kind of interpreted by your own flavor type of thing. But the form should be constant, should they not?
Yes. A form is constant so that the motion itself is completed. You have full range of motion, okay? After a student has developed a full range of motion from a form, then you insert and delete and add and all the other things to make it more interesting and dig for more answers, okay? But I think, you guys, for the most part today, is that you've got to come to the realization is that if you want to do a technique in a real fight, you've got to want to do a specific type of movement, an action, okay? Not just because you can do it in a technique line. But I've seen guys that do that. They just wait just long enough just so they can get that elbow in because they like it so much. Or a guy likes a kick, or a guy likes a chop, okay? You've got to want to.
So ethically, when you're teaching students, obviously we teach the beginners, like you say, like step back, block, etc. At what level do we take it beyond, like what we just talked about?
At what level do you take it beyond? What if it's a certain age group? You don't. If it's a guy that has a particular field that necessitates this type of training, yes.
Like my son is being a police officer,
Yeah, he can't. There's certain things he's not allowed to do. Now,
No,
I taught one girl Form 8. She learned it in 2 weeks, perfectly. But I never taught her, because she was 15 years old, what those moves meant. Okay? For a reason. Okay? Got it?
Yep.
On a 15-year-old girl going back to school, wading into something that she can't wade out of.
Right.
Okay? So you do have a responsibility, and not everything has to be, if you want to stay alive, you have to do this, and so forth. As teachers, and going back to the LTKKA, I admire people that teach from a perspective of what the student really needs. Okay? You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And your school is made up of three types of students: fighters, guys that are really tough, watchmakers. They can tell you every technique and how it's written in the book. And then you have tinkers. And a lot of schools have a lot of tinkers. They just come in and they play around with it and they like to be associated to it. And this is how you have to look at your students, okay? Got to do that, you guys. Not everything has, you don't have to show the nth degree of everything. It's not important. Okay? Not everybody wants to kill the guy in Vietnam with a knife. Okay? Not everybody's that pissed off and that bloodthirsty that he can't wait to use his knife instead of his M16.
Right.
You have to weigh the differences between what people can do, want to do, and can associate themselves with. Okay? What people can associate themselves with. And I guess that's one of the biggest things through, all of us that we teach. I watch you guys teach, I listen to you, and I tell you, you guys know, like I said, you know what you're talking about. You do, more than most. I think the best thing that I can teach you is to use this sparingly and wisely when you're teaching. You don't need to show how to stick a knife in somebody's throat and carve it out. Okay? I mean, my gosh, if that's your premise, that what you're building your teaching platform off of, you're not going to have it very long. Okay?
Question from John Hillier.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we'll see anything new added to your Kempo Karate with Larry Tatum, or even a new book coming out.
Yes.
Such a fountain of knowledge.
Let's see. My new book is coming out. It's at the editor still. It's about that thick. It's big. But it's everything pertinent to what I learned through teaching in my entire life. Okay? Everything that I felt was important to me that I learned from teaching, that I learned from students, learned from other teachers. So everything that I talk about is a lesson that I learned. Okay? All right. And that took a long time. It took a lot of soul searching because I had to go back to all of those years to remember the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. And sort it out so that what I'm writing about is not just a biography of things I encountered, but the lessons I learned through the encounters. Okay. So when you read it, you can say, oh, shit, that happened to me. God, I haven't had that happen to me yet, but it will. Okay. All right. So it's almost out. What else?
Question from Tony. What drills would you recommend for grafting development, including integration of freestyle?
Oh my gosh. That's a good question. If you're going to spar, I used to take my students, and I still do, and I say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. You're allowed to use your kicks and punches, spar, okay? And blocks. You can only use leaping crane. Got it? Yes, sir. But try not to break his leg. Okay, back up a little bit. Let's go. Get ready to go. Oh, fighting. Yes. Okay. All right. Now, what Scott has ended up doing was sparring with leaping crane. Okay. When he came in, instead of going, he could have gone right to the temple, could have kicked out this leg, and so forth. But you have to think in those terms to pull it off. You see what I'm saying? Okay, now, watch this. Guard up, same thing. You're allowed to use 5 swords. Okay, good. Okay, it's an exercise to see if you can continually use 5 swords pattern. Okay? You take it out of the realm of defense and put it in the realm of offense, okay? You can do that with most any techniques. So that you bridge that gap between, okay, today we're going to do self-defense and then we're going to do sparring. That gap between those starts to do this. That's not good. Okay? You don't want a gap. Guy asked me a while back, how do you fight? Go on YouTube. That's how I fight. Okay? I don't separate sparring, self-defense techniques. The concepts are different. Okay? But the principles remain the same. Okay? What else?
Look forward to buying your next book when it comes out.
Me too.
That's the last question.
That's it.
I have a question, Master Tatum. Ron Belt, I asked this question because I love broccoli, but I hate cauliflower. Grinding sack of rice. Better ways to get the depth check, the width check at the beginning, and how you insert the headbutt.
Ah, okay. Okay. You know this technique? Sure. Okay, do the attack.
Technique are we doing?
Sliding second.
Oh, last second.
Okay, one move at a time. One move at a time. Okay, now, in studying this, let me take it place. What technique is this? It's thrusting wedge.
Thrusting wedge.
Okay. All right, just modified a little bit. Okay. What technique is this?
Blinding sacrifice.
Huh?
Blinding sacrifice.
Well, that's what we're doing, but what is this?
Oh,
Thrusting prongs.
It's 2 heel palms as a claw, right? And grab. Okay. Does this break a Kempo rule?
Yes.
Yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
It does.
Absolutely.
It implies this, right? So you don't occupy 2 hands onto what?
same target.
Same target. Okay. Now, if I grab the groin and I yank, where do the hands go?
Back.
They go backwards. So is that not a position check like this? It is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you reach down there and you yanked on the groin, it goes back, then this is set up to break the ribs. But we broke another Kempo rule. So how do we correct a rule? Come on in my face. No, with the hands. This then teaches the student at a case study of motion how to correct a mistake. You see what I'm saying? I broke a rule, but it invited a mistake. If I go to the eyes, now I'm back up in the beginning. If I chop right past his bicep, what kind of check is this?
Riding check.
It's a riding pinning check. Okay? So now in my case study of motion, I've corrected a mistake. I pulled hard enough on the groin to put him in a positional check that I don't have to worry about these. Why I do the things that I do. And okay. In the form, the reason it's done with 2 hands is so you don't waste time in the form doing this. This is a pattern. And it's illustrating a pattern. So we do it with both hands. So in the form, we're not just stuck doing it with one hand. What is this pattern? It's a heart shape. It's part of our universal. Does it break rules? Yes. Can you correct broken rules? Yes. Okay. So it's a case study of motion. Some people like to take it and drive it in this way. Now, when I do that, these arms go down. You see what I'm saying? And then as I come back, okay, then I'm back in again. Certain things changed. I wanted the arms down, so I did this instead of going to the groin. But then it changes the dynamics of the technique. Okay. Arms can go down, arms can what?
Go back.
Go back. So you're teaching the student to get the arms to go back like this. Okay? Or you're teaching the student, arms go down and the headbutt is there. It's a case study of motion. Broken rules, fixed rules. Okay? Now there are zones of sanctuary. Watch. If I didn't get those arms to go back, I can what? I can hide back here.
Jam.
I can headbutt him. Okay? It's a platform, you guys. It's a platform. What else?
We had a question on Diane Wheeler had to leave, but she asked, are you planning on returning to Europe at any time soon? The UK or anywhere?
He's still
I
in.
don't know. I might. I might. I'm okay to travel now, pretty much. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I've got to go to Chile pretty soon. What
Oh,
else?
we'll have to get you back to Canada then.
Oh, yeah, don't worry, because it's going to be the next state.
That's right.
Yeah,
That is true. That is true.
yeah, so I don't need a passport or nothing.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, I mean, my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you travel again, sir? Can you travel again?
Yes. I've gone to the
Okay.
East Coast a couple of times already, and I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm all right.
Great, great to hear that.
And I got to go to Mexico. That's right. Well, you guys, look, I hope this was interesting because I think a lot about the art, obviously. But each year I try to make myself a better teacher. Okay? And I watch. Believe me, I'm online watching everything. And I listen. Okay? And I post people doing things that I never seen before that are very good at what they do. Okay? And of all the things at this point, like I started with the seminar, is become a masterful teacher. Okay? You guys are already fast. You're already strong. You already got so many what ifs, you could start an argument that would circle the globe. Okay? Which you don't need. Okay? It's like a guy one time was doing, what's this technique?
Bowing to Buddha.
And he did it, and I was in the office back in the 70s, and Parker was there. His name was John Conway. He passed away, real nice guy. And I said, well, John, he was doing it like this. See my fist, vertical? I said, well, John, you're supposed to do it this way so you catch both balls. He said, Larry, in Ireland, when you get good, you stack them. Okay. Okay, so what I'm trying to is you realize you could argue any point. Okay. All right. But become a better teacher. If you want to stack them, stack them. Okay. I could care less. Okay. I mean, who's going to argue? Well, he did it wrong. Why? Because he stacked them. He didn't do this.
Goofball.
Okay.
You know what?
I'm 76 years old, and I don't argue. There's nothing left to argue about. Okay. But I do watch and I do listen. Okay. Any other questions before we go?
Just thank you, sir, for doing this.
Oh, you guys are welcome. And I thank you, Frank, for coming in, and Gomez and all you other guys. You know, Randy, good to see you. And Scott, thank you so much for making this happen.
Oh, you're welcome, sir. You're welcome.
Tell Lori and her husband they did a great job, as always. And I hope this helps in some way. Okay. All right. Okay. Anything? Thank you, Scott. Over here.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Come on.
Thank you.
I'll see you guys on the maps.
All right.
Sure.
Take care. Everybody
Thank
take
you.